Aha.
There we
Aha. And we'll give it just a couple of seconds here because there we go. And we're in. Welcome in, everybody. It is Wednesday. Gosh, that's still so hard to say. It is Wednesday night. It is 7:30 where I am in the Central Time Zone. Actually, I think this is a Central Time Zone show tonight. I think we're all in the Central Time Zone. So this is Flyover Country is live and well. We are here. Yeah, Wednesday night. I'm James O'Hagan. I am the Director of Digital and Virtual Learning for the Racine Unified School District and host of the Academy of Esports podcast. I am going to be hosting this conversation tonight. And directly to my right is...
Hey everybody, I am AJ. I am the Director of Membership Sales and Services for NACE, and I am also the Vice Chair of the Kansas City Esports Coalition.
And to my further right is...
Hey everybody, I am Bradford Harris, and I am the Director of Learning for TechSEF, Texas Classic Esports Federation, and I am also an Education Strategist for SHI.
And working our way around the horn down over there in the... You know, it's almost like we set this up geographically, too. You know, it's like we're kind of... Well, Mike and I would need to be switched, but all the way down in the bottom right corner we have...
Christopher Turner, General Manager, Head Esports Coach of Southern University and Southern University Laboratory School. Also coordinator of the Mixed Reality Virtual Innovation Gaming and Esports 2 of Southern University Law Center.
And right below we have my neighbor to the west...
I'm Mike Daly. I'm the president of the Wisconsin High School Esports Association, and I'm a business education teacher at Elkhorn High School.
And tonight, we have a very diverse panel in the sense that what we're looking... Sam's moving people around on the backside. This is like the Wizard of Oz. Never mind the man behind the curtain. So tonight, the reason why we have this panel put together is because we're looking at the topic around the collegiate. Now, people call it the scholastic esports space, but really, for a number of years, several of us have been saying collegiate is different than K12. Our purposes are very different. Our goals are very different. So if you'll notice tonight, we have three high school focused people. One person who is long in the... oh my gosh, is my cat tearing my couch? Oh gosh. Okay. No, my cat is not tearing my couch. Sorry. We have three people who are involved in the high school space. AJ, who is involved exclusively in the collegiate space, and Chris Turner, who is our hybrid person tonight. He is our dual threat, collegiate and high school space. So thank you all for being here tonight. And really, what I want to do is kick off the conversation with one of the questions that we have. So we did post the question up about what it's like about collegiate and K-12. And first off, let's look at because there is a difference. Let's open it up about the objectives of K-12 esports and collegiate. Because again, there's very different reasons that we're looking at doing this. Who wants to talk about some of the differences they see, or at least what is the objective? AJ, what's an objective that we see with the collegiate space? Why do colleges have esports?
Yeah, the funny question is, and the difficult question is it's up to the institution, really. I would say that a good majority of them are using collegiate esports programs to help with recruitment and retention within their university. There are other schools that are looking more for esports programs to be a good marketing tool. So they recruit the best and the brightest in their titles to snag as many championships as they can. So even within the collegiate space, you can ask 5 different institutions and they will tell you 5 different reasons why collegiate esports matters on their campus.
And why? And now I'll toss this one over to Bradford, because Bradford, you probably have the biggest reach since you have. Well, I mean Mike too. You guys are both up on this. We talk about K-12 space. Why do we have esports even in the K-12 space?
I'm going to piggyback off of really what AJ said. The space now is different now that I'm sitting in, because it's all about engagement. I don't know. Can you hear me? There's like a buzz in the background.
No, I hear you fine.
Okay, I hear like this buzz. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, it's all about engagement. And having people come back to the educational space. That's kind of the seat that I'm sitting in and the conversation that I'm hearing. And what I'm also hearing is that there's money to be spent, but how do you spend the money and how do you provide that engagement? Because now we want to see what esports is looking like for students who want to be a part of that engagement piece. That's really what it is. But there's no framework yet. Nobody has that. I want to go to so and so for that particular framework. I literally just got off of a call. I was kind of eavesdropping over the initiative for computer science initiative and where that role is going to. I was eavesdropping in the conversation, but they're talking about what that rollout is looking like for states across the country and what that looks like for K-12 and what it's looking like in the collegiate space. So really where I'm looking at in my angle is the engagement factor. How can we get our students more engaged? But there's no real plan per se.
Mike, do you see that as well too from your work in Wisconsin?
I would definitely echo the engagement. We definitely see that the more that we get our students to engage within esports and belong to the community that they're a part of, it creates just a much more unique environment that's welcoming to those students. And I mean, I would just echo that. I try to use it as a complementary tool to what I'm doing in the classroom. So that way I have students that want to step up and do different things beyond just gaming. And so they're taking what we're doing in the classroom and then applying their interest to it as well. So that's how I like to use it.
Now, of course, Chris, this is why we're calling you the dual threat. You started at the Southern University Lab School, which is a school for is it a high school or is it K-12 or
it's pre-K through 12, pre-K through 12.
Yeah, and then you're also working at the university level. So when people talk to you about esports, do you find a difference in your head when you talk about what you're doing at the collegiate level versus what you're doing at the K-12 level, or is it more like a continuum?
It's a continuum. It's a continuum.
Okay.
And I hate to say it has a lot to do with the demographic that I deal with. And so, like, as an African American and being like a HBCU campus, we're behind on the whole IT gaming ecosystem. Like, it's not just a digital divide, which it is. I'm talking about like simple stuff, like converting my players from controller over to keyboard and mouse, like for competition reasons, and just like knowing how to use a keyboard and mouse for your computers. But yeah, I echo everything everybody else said, but more of, I guess, on the collegiate side of things and the high school side too, more of, hey, meeting the students where they are. We know they play games, but how can we pull that energy over into like workforce development, career pathways, college pathways? Like, how can we take that energy and sideload it into different career paths that they don't even think about, or they're not represented in? So but it's a continuum for sure.
And as I think about this question, the UCI conference kind of started to really open my eyes. The UCI ESC conference, which went on last week, which Bradford was a presenter in, it started to open my eyes too that we're starting to see this fork in the road. I feel now, Chris, your situation is very unique.
It's different, but I can speak on what everybody else is doing because it's highly competitive on the college side, without a question.
But it's interesting that when I go back to what AJ said about it being a marketing or a recruitment tool. AJ, come on, who are they trying to recruit? Who are they going after?
Yeah, depending on the school, it could be anyone, but all of the obviously the high tiered skill players are, and it's so interesting that we're like getting on this topic now, is because we did at NACE, we did a recruiting webinar last month, and we brought in two of the most highly competitive collegiate esports programs that they are, and then just them sharing like, this is actually what I do for recruiting, was miles away indifferent than what I did for recruiting at Park. So they are looking into the amateur scene. They're looking into tapping into academy teams and things like that. While I was like, I'm going to go to my local high schools and I'm going to find the folks that are within my community that are looking to stay local to their community, and they've got good grades. They're decent at the game. They're a decent human being. Let's bring them on in. So I'm actually really kind of excited about this topic.
But to AJ's point though, and I have to give you kudos to what you've done and the others involved in NACE. You've made 3 different tiers, so you can do both. You can go recruit that highly sought after talent, and then you can go to your local high school. Because with NACE's motto, you have like your hierarchy, you have a mid tier, and then you have a beginning tier, and so you're able to have inclusion for everybody at different skill sets.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously at NACE, varsity programs are our bread and butter. They're what our focus is in helping support and continue to grow and foster. But we also realize that so many esports clubs that are on campuses are so closely related to their varsity programs, and it's almost like 2 different teams on the same campus that are supporting each other. So with this model, we're able to support any student that's on a campus that's looking to compete in some capacity. So you do have your kick butt varsity, but then also if you've got a club team that wants to be there to make friends, have a good time, enjoy their experience, there's also competition that's available in that kind of hemisphere as well.
But what I'm seeing, I guess, because again, we talked about the goals around K12. And that's about engagement. And it's not about engagement about one group. It's about an engagement of everybody. And what I'm starting to see is that when we talk about this, that collegiate again is they're trying to. I think by and large it's doing it for recruitment, and specifically because of the declining populations of men on college campuses. I think that it's interesting that it's been a tool that historically, I'm not saying that everybody wants it to be this way. And AJ, you know how hard this is to recruit a team of, a diverse team, but it's so interesting that we're trying to, the message coming from collegiate is in the marketing and in the recruitment is we need men on campus, and us in the K12 are saying we need everybody. We're trying to build it for everyone. And so there's this weird disconnect because now it's like, well, we want to connect it to college, but we're not seeing the, like, we've talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's talked about a lot, but what have you done for me lately? I don't know how we and nobody seems to. Again, we see, like we said, we have 2 different goals. We have this engagement recruitment piece over here, and then over here we need something for everyone. We want to have not even the games anymore. I think, Mike, I know we in the Wisconsin, because of one group, decided that we were going to drop League of Legends. It's still a very popular title at the collegiate level. So what are we supposed to do? Not, how does a college recruit on a game that by and large a lot of people, because of community rules, can't access or play?
Well, and I'll just kind of jump in a little bit different here because I've interviewed for about 7 or 8 different collegiate positions so far too. And maybe it's my approach as to why I'm not the final candidate. But I mean, every time that I've interviewed, I say, I'd rather find somebody that I can build a team around because my goal is to build a connection to the campus. And I talk a lot about building that community that's there because that's what I do in high school. And I see the most benefit out of doing something like that. So usually one of my follow-up questions is like, do you want to be competitive in the space? Or do you want to have students that say, this was the best 4 years that I've had on my college campus? And like I know, James, you're a huge marching band fan for Purdue. And that's exactly what I'd be trying to create on their college campus. But that's again, me coming from K12. Not really, I like putting trophies in a case. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that. But I would definitely love to hear kids in 10 years say, like, I love that because I had this.
So you hit the nail on the head. So this is where the fork in the road is now, because I've said it. You're talking about, Mike, I'm ready to start building a program. Where is the program? And this is where I have been starting to have those critical conversations now with people, no matter who's willing to listen. Christopher has already got it started, but he's a dime a dozen. James has already gotten it started, but he's a dime a dozen of a program, of a program. And I've said to people, so what happens after year one? And they say, what are you talking about? I said, there's a year zero, and then there's a year one. And then after year one, your program somehow all of a sudden has just died. What happens? And it's because there's this burnout. Let's get COVID out the way. Let's get pandemic and stuff out the way. Something has happened to where all of a sudden that teacher has left, somebody has left, the program has just fizzled out. And so there's no fidelity in the program because a James, a Mike, a AJ, and Christopher has done it by themselves. So the question now is, now we need to make a sustainable program, but now we're talking about I need to start investing dollars into a program now. That is the concern that I think people are trying to figure out. How do I pay $60,000 for an esports program that runs 2 days out of the week after school and make it what Mike wants to be? Where's my return?
Well, as we're starting to see now with collegiate, and again, Chris or AJ may be able to speak to this, but the landscape is being divided up. And it's being divided up by companies who are coming into schools and promising streaming revenue dollars, saying, "Hey, we'll fund your, media efforts." Learfield Communications is a huge one right now in the space. They've already been in there with with the collegiate teams of basketball, football. If you ever listen to those games on the radio, they're the ones who are producing those. Those contracts are being signed, and that now all of a sudden the monetization of the collegiate space is very real. And again, you're talking about also in this matrix of what's going on. Collegiate space is adults, and we in the K12 space work with children. So even how we approach our programmings need to consider those differences, which again, I don't think those are necessarily always recognized by the collegiate space.
But I'm gonna pose this question because I've been in the conversations. Why would I sign my media rights away to my program?
Because nobody knows better.
Yeah,
they don't know better.
Man,
Yeah,
it's like that's the craziest thing ever. Because 9 times out of 10, that's the revenue driver for your program in the next few years. Like content is king.
Yeah, and the ability to give your students the ability to run that, to manage that, to give them the experience of doing those things is absolutely crucial. And honestly, it's part of, I would almost kind of say, the lifeblood at this point in time. If you go on Twitter right now and you're following a bunch of collegiate coaches and directors today, they are all posting some very real feelings of how they're feeling in the space. They're feeling overwhelmed, they're feeling overworked, they're feeling the pressure from being in the middle of the fall season.
I'm feeling that right now.
Yeah, it's happening all through your Twitter feed. If you follow collegiate coaches and directors, it's happening tonight. And I think the thing that keeps all of these coaches going are their students. So the ability to continue to see their students succeeding when they compete, see their students having a good time, see their students succeeding when they get really excited about broadcasting and shoutcasting and learning new skills. That's what's driving these coaches to keep going. But we have to support these coaches and continue to give them the additional support. And again, the media rights thing, that's a lifeblood. That's part of a program, that's part of a skill set that you can give those students. You gotta keep it with your students.
This is another question too. What this is coming from me. What more do we have to do in order for admins, presidents, deans, chancellors to really understand what's going on. They don't even want to stop to look at the space to understand an ounce of what's going on to even fund the program. So what more do we have to do?
Well, I mean, it leaves AJ to come in and sell me. I mean, but she's an ally in this space. Guess what? Again, because of the monetization, because this is cutthroat, because there are people who, whether it's connections or whatever, they're going to come in and just say whatever they can to get, as you said, Chris, why would you sign your media rights away? Well, colleges and universities do it every day. And if you're able to make, with that, AJ, as you were saying, these collegiate coaches are so overwhelmed right now. Well, a lot of them are getting paid nothing. And so if you can hear, hey, we can, and you said run your own media program. If you only need 6 kids, 6 computers, and you can get $300,000 on an investment of, say, a year, $100,000, so you're going to turn around $200,000. Why would you not? Why would you build out this elaborate like a Boise State? Boise State's the ones who, when you think about, has done everything that they possibly can around media production and space development and bringing people in, and that's one of the biggest things. It's just, again, you're right, Chris. I don't know what we do to educate, but let me ask. I want to pose a question to Mike Dolly. Mike Dolly, Learfield Communications comes to Wisconsin High School Esports Association, says we want to give you $500,000 to be your broadcast rights producer for the next 5 years. What do you say?
That's a loaded question. Because because I'm in that situation to where, okay, $500,000, what could I do with that for our kids? Yeah. I'm not looking at it like, oh, cool, I'm bankrolled finally. Like, I can do this for a full-time job. But to me, it's like, how many more experiences could I offer my kids? Or our kids, I guess I should say, as far as the state of Wisconsin goes. But it's like, yeah, would I love to have that kind of money? Absolutely. But, I mean, I have interns right now that are doing our broadcasting and they're loving it. I have graphic designers that are like sophomores in high school that are loving the ability to create content for us. And so if I sign that over, I just took away an interest, a passion for those kids. So to me, I wouldn't sell out. Sorry, I shouldn't say sell out, but but I know what some of the college coaches are seeing with that, because they're saying like, oh my God, that's one major thing that's now not on my plate, and now I can focus my direction somewhere else. I totally understand both sides of the coin.
I can respect it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I know, with some of these schools that are running 8 to 12 titles every season, that's a lot to manage. And then if you're talking about trying to create content for all of those, like, it's just not humanly possible if you're a one-man marching band. So
that is the loneliest marching band I have ever heard. It's like, what was that? The Mary Poppins. Yeah. What's his face? Dick Van Dyke at the beginning. But let me pose this question, and this is a real part of this, because I know this is where K12 has, I hope, in a well-run program, has really started to pay attention. Because COVID, let's talk about mental health, okay? There's something that I see in the K12 space that at least I think even if in some cases I think the conversation is at least there, or at least is back of mind. I have not heard that at all in the collegiate space. Am I wrong? Am I missing that? Is that even part of the collegiate conversation, or is it because, hey, these are adults, we're just gonna let adults be adults?
I don't really consider them adults though. Like I have to stop myself all the time. Like, hey kids, I say stuff like that. Like they laugh, but they're not full adults. Like they might be young adults, but they're still trying to understand and find out who they really are.
But are we having that mental health conversation then?
No, we're
at
not.
The collegiate level?
No, we're not. They got busted off for COVID, and it was like, hey, come back, make sure you have your COVID shot, and we're gonna put you back in the dorm. And that was it. We really didn't have it on the K12 level either, though.
Yeah, I think
That's everybody.
when we first got sent home when the pandemic began, I had weekly check-ins with all of my athletes. We were pulled from competition, pulled obviously from going onto campus and practicing. So at that point in time, since we weren't practicing and we weren't competing, my job was their grades and making sure that they were still maintaining their athletic eligibility by keeping up their grades. And it would be a weekly conversation where I'd call them on Discord and be like, "Hey, how are you feeling? What have you got going on with your grades?" But there is always a handful of them that would just tell me how
Ooh, somebody's
difficult.
got some major feedback. Hold on a second. Has
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
got an air conditioner running in their house?
It might be me. Let me turn off me.
So I at that point in time, I just became somebody that they could talk to with how they were feeling and what they were going through. Sometimes it was too difficult to talk directly to their professor. Sometimes it was difficult to have that conversation with their parents. So at that point in time, I became an ear for them to lean on. And then if it got to the point where some of them I did suggest, hey, like, we've got a counseling center that's on campus. They're doing like Zoom counseling sessions. So, but that was when the pandemic first happened. We were back on campus in the fall of 2020. We were back on campus, and those conversations they went away because we got back into practicing, we got back into competing, and people would really only come up and tell me if they were having issues, or if I could notice somebody was acting a little off, I'd pull them aside. But those like weekly kind of touch-ins, just like, how are you as a person, those did stop once we got back on campus.
I really think too that it may depend on who's in charge of the program and the connection that they have, that relationship that they've built with who's ever leading that program. I was down in Illinois last weekend for the 66 Games Expo, and I got to run into a former student that I had at my previous school. And like, I try to keep up with him quite a bit, and I know him and his brother, and I try to keep up with them. And they have that support system, those two do, and they're at two different colleges under two different programs. And I think it's important that if you're leading a program, that you're taking that interest not only in their performance in the game, but in life in general, right? Like, I look at like a D3 college and look at their athletics. Like, yeah, are you hopefully trying to go ahead and win a championship? Yeah, but you're also trying to develop young adults that are going to be successful out there, that are taking care of themselves. Like, there's a lot. It's almost like being a parent. Just
Well, and there's what AJ, what you were telling me is more like, it wasn't an expectation that mental health was a part of your program. It was more like something that you were aware of, something that needed to be done, because these are your children, these are your students, these are your charges.
Yeah, exactly.
Fiona put a good comment in here, and Sam, if you can pull up the last comment, there we go. And remember, coaches don't have to bring in that support when we're talking about mental health. They don't have to. The universities have entire programs to work with coaches on what it would look like. The coach's best card is that he or she can offer the absolute best space and ecosystem for students to be receptive. The funding is massive right now for anything that will finally work to bridge that campus gap, and nothing is working anywhere near as with gaming. That is your entrance point to substantial funding. So, yeah, I think, again, we're talking about programs. I think the collegiate space, and again, Chris and AJ, it sounds like you guys are almost kind of left to your... Okay, let me ask this. What kind of planning went into your program beyond, hey, we want to have a program and we want to compete in games?
Ladies first.
Well, when I showed up at Park University back in January of 2019, they said, here are 7 athletes. They play League of Legends. We're going to get you signed up for C-LOL. Your first competition is in 2 weeks. Okay,
Now,
great.
But wait, let me ask you this. Who was part of that planning for Park University?
So the department that had started the idea and got it off the ground and running was our student life program at Park. We eventually moved to athletics after a couple of months, But it was birthed by student life and the director of student life there.
Now, Chris, I think you were at the forefront and start of Southern, which again, AJ kind of came into it. So how was your program conceived, at least at the collegiate level?
I guess you know my story, James. But for everybody that doesn't, the director of the laboratory school actually gave me like the freedom to do what I wanted. And to be honest, it was him writing a letter to the system president and getting approved. So in that letter, we kind of gathered a letter up together and formulated it. In that letter, it gave me my title, rights to use the university's logo, to found it as a club on campus, have a account at our foundation that's tied to the university, and that's it. No budget, no department. Athletics didn't want it. Student life didn't want it. They didn't understand it, and we've been operating like that since.
Do you think that, and this is open for everybody, do you think that's the norm when we're planning out collegiate or even K12 esports programs right now? Bradford, you're doing a lot of work with SHI. What are you seeing as far
Absolutely, it's the norm. It's the norm. It's there. There is no plan. We just have money, but there is no plan. It's the great spot that we're in is there's money, but we don't know what to do with it. But then if well, we all know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But if like you just said, if you gave Mike, what is it, $1 million? He
$500,000. I don't want Mike to start driving around a Ferrari in Wisconsin. It's not. We're coming into winter anyway. It's not a good car to drive in winter. So I hear.
You gave Mike $500,000, but guess what? He is still teaching 5 and 6 classes.
Man.
He is still, at the bus route. He is still having to come in and do other stuff. He is not an esports director.
Lunch duty, carpool.
He's still doing all those, so nothing has changed. He's still doing stuff after school, but then they're knocking on his door. Where are my students with scholarships? He has only 6 students, and I've just paid, over, I don't know, X amount of dollars for all this equipment, but only X students are playing. This is a problem, but he can't still do it all because he's Mike and he's by himself. He can't do it by himself. And I told somebody a month ago that they wanted to do this. I said, you can't do this with 15 other things on your plate. Now, we are still in this pandemic where in K12, teachers are still tired. I asked Christopher, this was a real talk today, not with Chris, but this is an example. Chris teaches, say, a CS class. Guess what? You're not teaching CS today. You're teaching math, but I don't have math credentials. Today, you teaching math. Tomorrow, you're teaching French, and guess what? You might be teaching Spanish. So when do I do esports? You don't, or you have to squeeze it in. So then there is where the program is going to die. But then I have all this money to make sure that it's running, but I'm tired. So that's the other reality. Right now, we're in this point where there are teachers who are not in the space to teach the classes that they are supposed to teach. And now we have to fund a program that is non-existent, but we still want it to be there. But we got to get teachers in the seats. That's an issue. That's a huge issue right now.
We want it because we're competitive and it looks cool. We don't want it for the right reasons.
I want it because Superintendent Turner and his district is all that, and now Superintendent Harris wants the same thing. I don't care, Director O'Hagan, how you get it started, but get it started. Because it's going to make me look like a hot mess. Figure it out, but I'm not giving you no position, and I'm not giving you a teacher to do it. You can pay them a $500 stipend, but that's about it. Figure it out, and that's the reality.
We'll give you a little help from IT, but you're not getting a raise either.
But guess what? IT got a project. They got to build 2 new schools.
Oh, that's that Texas money talking right there. That's that where y'all are building like 4 schools in a year. How many schools?
That ain't Texas money. Guess what? I work for a different place now. It's all over the country now. It's all over the country. Don't say Texas no more. This ain't Texas. This is California, Texas, Florida, your state, James. It's everywhere.
It's not around here. Mike and I can tell you that. It's not in our area.
Somebody somewhere got some money, but it ain't for you. And I said that when I was.
I'm used to that.
I said that when I was in my district. We got money, but it's not for you. But we'll drop you something.
And I do have to say what Bradford was describing when he was talking about, people being subs. This is a real problem that we have right now in education with, I know my team, the CAO team that I'm a part of, the Chief Academic Office team, every single one of those people right now is out subbing in schools because we have such a shortage of staff. I had a friend who her job is the project manager for our department, and she was over subbing 6th grade special ed the other day. And she's like, no, it is a huge problem what he's describing. And I know, like, for example, Mike Dolly, I don't know how you survive every day without just finally keeling over or just saying I'm going fishing and then never getting off your boat and just staying out in the lake and just enjoying the lake life for the next 3 days. But here's a thing too, because what I heard being described was the planning. We should never be thinking. Now, again, this is where I hear the planning is pretty much by and large, unfortunately, is the same between collegiate and K12. It's hubris, it's flashy, it's fun, it gets a good press release. But where I'm hearing a difference is in college, it sounds almost like they want to make money off of this. The goal is to make money either off media or off recruitment, because again, if we can get more students to the school, we're not giving full ride scholarships, we're giving partial scholarships. And at the K12 level, it's not so much that they want to make money, but again, the scholarships needed to be there. But Mike, we've seen even with these scholarship programs, kids don't necessarily want to go halfway across the country to some of these schools. What have you? I mean, what have we talked about here in the state when it comes to recruitment? When it comes to collegiate recruitment?
For me, I always tell my kids to look at their academics first. Like, what is their job placement rate for your future? What connections to the employers do they have in your area for your specialized field? And then now what games do they have for esports? Like, what kind of esports scholarship would you be taking? And trying to have those conversations with those kids so that way they don't just see a flashy, here's a scholarship, like, oh, I'm going here, I got a scholarship. Awesome, great. Like, I've seen a lot of kids transfer schools or just show up for 1-2 semesters of competition and then transfer and then just drop esports. So, I mean, for me, a big thing is trying to make sure that, just like normal, like, how are you making your decision? What basis are you making your decision on? Like, this is a huge financial investment. And I know there was a comment earlier about young adults with money at stake. And I mean, I completely agree. But there are also kids making those decisions at the time that are adult decisions, and they don't think about the long-term ramifications of their decisions.
Well, let me ask the bigger, scarier question for all of us here. And this isn't to take away anybody's jobs or anything like that. But Mike, you raised a very interesting point about some of these kids will do 1 or 2 semesters of competition and then leave and give up on esports. So let me ask this. Is K12 even the right place for esports to the level that we're doing it? Or is it better for us to just focus in on casual club play?
I think you got to do both. And that's what I do. So, like, for example...
But not everybody does that. They take their video game club and they say, okay, now we're an esports team.
Yeah, because that's the low-hanging fruit. But you have to be careful. It's a thin line there. Like, for instance, I made a mistake this year. I'll go ahead and say it on air.
No, you didn't. No way.
I did.
You're the biggest hustler in all of Scholastic Esports.
It doesn't matter. So my middle school kids, right? I went on ahead and bought a pass for them to play middle school competition for the whole year.
For where?
For the middle school kids.
Okay.
I bought a pass for the whole middle school to play competition for a middle school league, right? Worst mistake ever.
Really?
Oh, nobody signed up. Nobody took advantage of the free pass. So that money is gone, down the drain, can't get it back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I told them, hey, it's a $10 fee because Mr. Turner's tired of buying snacks for game nights. I've had 10 or 15 kids sign up for just a club fee for $10 with one game day a month. Like they're breaking down the door trying to get into the room that we have just to enjoy the room. They don't even care about competition. So it's the community.
And that's where I'm going with this. Exactly. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
No, I mean, we have to be careful with that. Like, you're probably, and I said this from the jump, my club has, the pre-K through 12th grade school is only 350. At the height, before COVID, I had 50 kids in the club. My game nights, I would shut down my art room. And, like, I'm talking about back-to-back rotating, noodles. They love noodles for some reason.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah, so it's like, that type of environment where you have a community of like-minded, students where they feel comfortable, whether they're an athlete, a quote-unquote nerd, a dancer, a theater student, it doesn't matter. They all love playing games, right? I only have probably between 10 and 15 that actually compete throughout the year. And I'm talking about fall and spring.
And I wonder if we took that approach at the high school level, would we still be able to? Because again, for us, it's about engagement. It's about building relationships. It's about mental health. It's about play. And not to throw a wrench into how collegiate operates, but would we potentially? And I'm not saying that I want to go this way. I'm just asking the question. So Mike, don't freak out. I'm not trying to sabotage the state association here, but. Again, I come back to if our goals are engagement, mental health, play, diversifying opportunities for student participation. We focus on 4 and 5. I'll say 4 and 5 because, boy, sorry about NBA 2K. But let me ask this. Would we get better engagement? Would we get better results with mental health? Would we get better diversification if instead of us saying these are our 4 or our 5 titles, that instead we said it's a game night and we're going to have 20 or 30 different titles going and 20, 30 different systems going? It's a big, scary question, isn't it? Because we put a lot of work and effort into Scholastic Esports.
Yeah, I will say, at the end of every academic year that I was at Park, I would always, I'd have almost like an exit interview, even if they weren't, if they were coming back, right? Even if they were coming back. And one of the questions that I always asked my students was, what's your favorite part about being a part of this program? What is an event that, what is your favorite thing about being involved in Park Esports? And I would say the vast majority of them were the different events that we were able to go to as a team. The ability to meet other players from other schools and interact with them. Maybe 1 or 2 people mentioned, the time that we beat Boise State, which is honestly pretty cool as a very small NAIA school. Beating Boise State is really awesome. But 9 times out of 10, all of the students are my favorite part is being able to make friends. My favorite part is being able to be in this space with students who have the same interests as me. You will have those hyper-competitive students where that's going to be their answer, but it's really all about the experience and being able to have that to look back on fondly as their college experience after they graduate.
I've seen the same thing with the research I've done, AJ, on my exit interviews with the kids in our program as well, too. They don't talk about League of Legends or Overwatch or Rocket League. They talk about the time that they spent playing with their friends. Are you seeing that too, Mike, Bradford, Chris?
It's part of my onboarding process. I usually stress these are our competitive days. This is what I do with my program and why I see it as a success, is that we have that casual game night. I tell them that every Friday afternoon, I give up my classroom. The other guy across the hall, Jerry, gives up his classroom. We have to forcibly remove kids at 4:30, 5 o'clock on a Friday night because they don't want to leave and go home. They want to stay and play video games with their friends. And there's nothing competitive. There's like, I'm going to try to bring some board games this week and play, like just something different. And that's what they love. And that's, again, like goes back to my collegiate interviews. It's like, that's the community that I want on my campus. That's that connection that you want. I don't know, like, yeah, again, beating a Boise State would be really, really cool. But the coolest thing is to have all the friendships that you've built along the way. And you got to play video games.
I'm the same way, too. Like, even in my collegiate program, I have 200 students in a club. Constantly, my notifications on Discord is, hey, who's up? I'm playing Madden. Hey, I'm playing Smash. Hey, who's on Apex right now? When you get to competitive, though, it's almost. I'll go ahead and say it. They're fearful. They're fearful in getting somebody that's what we call in the industry a tryhard and getting beat nonstop. It's not fun that way.
Wait, what do we call it? I'm sorry.
Like a tryhard. Like
a tryhard. Sorry, your Louisiana got mixed in there. I kind of.
Okay, got it. Too much crawfish. but you know, it's you know, you see these things, but you see both sides of the coins on the competitive and the club level, and you see, the ups and downs of both. And so it's like, too much community events, you don't do homework, you don't go to class, like it's a give and go with both sides. It's like finding that balance, though.
Yeah, I think for me, see, a lot of people focus on the students. On my end as a trainer, I've always been a trainer, obviously. It's what are the adults getting out of it? And so I've always tried to...
Wait a second. That's a whoa moment right there. Hold up. Say that again.
You want me to do my car noise? Okay.
No, that's an important point, though, that you're making. Go ahead. Say it again.
As a trainer, since I've been training all these years, it's what do the adults get out of it? Because we always focus on students, but we never focus on the actual adults, whether they're getting paid or not. That's not the issue. That's another topic. But what do the adults get out of this? So my focus has always been trying to embed it into some sort of type of curriculum, some sort of pathway, make it a STEM focus, a CS focus, to where it's already in the classroom. So that way, if a district wants to purchase a program, I don't care where it's coming from, they don't say esports, they say STEM. So it's already embedded into the program, and they make a gaming club out of it after school. So the equipment's already there. There's different nuggets of esports within the curriculum, so the program is not lost. Those are the same students who are in the CS, the math, the ELA, the reading. They're using that same equipment. They're using that same curriculum, and they're adding esports on top of it. And that makes it more enjoyable for the teacher, because they're seeing the aha moments. They're seeing that their room does not have to be transformed into some big studio. They're seeing that all I have to pay is like $200 to get a mic and whatever else. And I can use ELA to show Final Fantasy or play Overwatch and align it with that, and I'm good. And then guess what? Oh, I got a team over here. I can do this too. And they're golden. And so they see that engagement factor right then and there. And they go, oh, I can do a club here? Yes, let's do that. So I look at it that way. What are the adults getting out of it? Because they want to align it with curriculum more.
Now, see, here's where I thought you were going to take this a whole different direction. And here's where I'll say what I thought you were going to say. Because I'm picking up on this theme kind of over and over again. We talk about what the students say that they want, but we are ultimately the adults building these programs. Again, we haven't had a council of kids who sit around who have decided what their esports program is going to be at their school, whether they want it to be esports or they want it to be competitive. The closest I would say to having that is UCI. When I talked to Kathy Shong about how their program got started, that was grassroots. That was student built. That was UCI taking it and then seeing the efforts that they do, having their tournaments, having their big League of Legends tournament that kind of launched them. But is Is K12 the influencer of the collegiate space, or is collegiate the influencer in this case with the K12 space? I know we're running out of time, so I'm kind of jumping the conversation a little bit.
It's the second notion. I tell people all the time that we're growing backwards instead of the other way around.
Is that the right thing?
No, it's not. It's not, because I feel like the foundation has to be set instead of right now we're just building in the sky. We have no foundation to what we're building. There's no pipeline. Like everybody's using pipeline and development. Like
I hate that term now.
yeah, but it's not though. Like we don't have one. You know, and then now we have people like Jack and Jill and YMCA and all these after school programs talking about getting esports rooms. What the hell are you going to teach these kids besides competition?
Yeah, I will say that it's really cool that you kind of bring up the student point and like, did anybody stop and like ask them what it is that they're looking to see or wanting to see? And I think that's something that is missing. It's a huge piece that's missing. So actually, this past NACE convention, it was actually voted into our constitution and bylaws to create a student rep program. So at this point in time, we're going through the process of gathering interested students from all of NACE member institutions, and these students are going to kind of act as like a mini advisory board to the board of directors and to the competition council, and we're going to be able, like, from a consensus from them, okay, like NACE as an entity in collegiate esports, where we've been doing this for about 5 years now. But what do you guys want? What support do you want? What do you want to see moving forward in your collegiate programs? So I'm very excited to see how that kind of evolves the conversation in the next couple of years.
Well, won't that evolve NACE? Because the way I see NACE, to be honest, is it filled the gap that the NCAA was not choosing to fill, as kind of being more like that organizational body. But I don't see how students would influence the NCAA and change the well, except for, I guess, the NIL, the name, image, likeness laws that they have now, which I will still maintain that was esports, I think, starting to drive that conversation of, well, wait, why can't these kids make money off of themselves before coming to college or in college? But, if what you're saying is accurate, AJ, and I'm not saying it's not accurate, I'm just saying if it is, the potential is that NACE could look at the landscape and go, damn, we did it completely wrong. We need to completely change the whole mission of this thing. Mike, do you think we would have the same thing in Wisconsin if we did it that way? If we did something like that? And I'm not saying we're going to start a student advisory group right now. Please, no, we're not doing that this second. But
I mean, I do like to think that I have aspects of that. I usually invite students and coaches to give feedback at the end of every season. And then I usually host like an online meeting that they can come and they can bring whatever they want to me. They can express whatever they're feeling. And I try to take that all into consideration. I usually go into the summer with a huge long list of like to-dos or like things to research to see how that we can improve it to better fit our students.
And go ahead, Chris.
Well, no, I was just saying I have a group at the college level I call my inner circle or internal circle. And it's like 11 kids, and each kid represents a game title. My community manager is not a gamer at all. She just loves community, the aspect of it. I mean, and I lean on them all the time. It's more like I'm their advisor than anything, because I'm not going to do anything that they don't want, because it's just going to sit there and rot. It's not going to, move forward in any direction.
Well, and as you said, you took that chance with the middle school. Yeah. And it was like,
yeah, I should have had an inner circle at the pre-K through 12 school.
Well, so that's one thing too that I usually incorporate into my onboarding is I say, you don't have to know what anything is about here. All you have to do is be a champion for your kids. Like, let them tell you what they want, and then you're the adult that knows the hierarchy that you need to go up to figure out what you can do as possible. Like, I asked my kids if they wanted to go down to ISU the other weekend for like a Smash Brothers competitive. They're like, yeah, absolutely. We're really excited. I was like, done. I'll make it work. Like, I'll go do all the paperwork. I'll do all, like, get the budget stuff in order. Like, that's my job, was to give them the best experience that they have. So you just tell me what you want. I'll do it. That's it. I want to make you have the best experience that you can possibly have.
But that doesn't necessarily change our core values. Again, the pillars that I build my program around are diversify opportunity for student participation, positive mental and physical health, honor the importance of play, increase career and collegiate scholarship pathways, and redefine athletic culture. Boom. Never did I say League of Legends, Smash Brothers, Overwatch. I didn't say it was going to be necessarily competitive. I just said we're going to change athletic culture. Changing athletic culture could say, hey, we're making clubs just as important as varsity. Why can't clubs be just as important as varsity? Why does it have to be, oh, look, I remember this whole thing. We did the first varsity letter for esports, and we did the first varsity state championship for esports. It's like, okay, first of all, you didn't. Because I still have I will never say that I was the first, but I have receipts that say 2015, so I'll just say that. But I'm not saying that I'm going to claim any of those. But second of all, it's like, come on. What does that really matter? What does it matter?
You know what my frustration is, too? The football players and basketball players and wrestlers and, like, all of these kids chasing after the cool sport and scared to talk to their parents and scared to talk to their traditional coach and say, hey, I would rather go game. But
I would have done that in high school if it was available.
Like, I don't get it. And like they pull me over into silos and tell me, hey, I can't wait to spring because I actually play. I'm like, what? But you're not getting any, like, game time in the traditional sport. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Because the society already sees whether you're playing or not, whether you are an awesome sports player or not, society sees that clear direction or path. If I'm a baseball player or a football player, whether I'm the greatest player or not, you can see that line of direction of where you can go.
But it's only that 1% though.
It don't matter. It don't matter.
It's crazy to me.
It is crazy.
Because
it don't matter.
This this industry that we're in, it's the biggest springboard I've ever saw in my life, as far as career pathways.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna sell my son on going to the NFL on some foolishness. Like, I think we got to really ask ourselves as a society what really matters.
Well, and again, I think because, as AJ said, you know, how much are we listening to the kids? Well, the kids, as they start to grow in adults, the NFL, the NBA, NHL, they're not getting the viewership. So they can either choose to, as you know, engage in that space with these brands need to engage in this space and realize that their industry is changing, or they're going to get left behind. We have to go to final thoughts. I'm sorry to say, but this time sometimes flies by. So, Mike, any final thoughts?
Honestly,
why is everybody always caught so flat-footed? You know it's coming.
It's true. It's true, but I never mentally prepare for it because I'm caught in the conversation.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think we're all in the same boat. We all have the same idea that we're trying to enrich our kids and our communities through esports. I just think we have different approaches to them. And I think if we keep communication lines open, it does nothing but benefit our kids.
Chris?
Man, thank you for the invite. This was therapy for me. I really needed this. I'm just going to take a personal note on this final thought. But I think if people just go back and look at pieces and gems and nuggets of this, they kind of get an idea why we fell in love with education anyway. And just put it in a broader spectrum of education and why we do it, man. But, you know, sky's the limit. I know that we need to probably slow down a little bit and actually do this thing the right way, and knowing that it's many ways to do it the right way.
Bradford?
Well, I know your investors are important because they're spending money on the program, whether it's a lot or lack thereof. But ask your students and your teachers, what do they want out of the program? Because those are the ones who are going to be executing your programs. And that's all I got. See, that was short.
Wow. And AJ, go ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm going to promo. Go ahead.
My final thoughts. I know that mental health definitely crept into this conversation. So I'm always a big advocate of highlighting that specifically. Again, going on Twitter tonight, collegiate esports directors and coaches are laying it all on the line, telling them how they're feeling. So, I know that all of us kind of within these types of roles are feeling a certain type of a way. So check in on your students, check in on your colleagues as well. And if you need some decomposing, please take that time to do so, even if it's jumping into a silly game or taking a walk. Take the time to take care of you so you can take care of others.
And my final thought is, I put out a tweet. I don't remember the context of it, but Adrian Reesley, who is at We Talk right now, former Play Versus person. When I asked something about K12 Esports and collegiate, he said K12 Esports programs have 3 categories: competitive, curricular, recreational. What is your goal is different because they all have very different models. So I think Adrian summed that up best. I'll even retweet that right now so people can grab it if they want to see it. And my Twitter handle's right there if you want to check it out. But yes, I think we need to remember that, again, there's just like how at the beginning of the conversation, AJ said that, and Chris said there's different layers and levels to NACE. Same thing, we just don't have a nice big organization to put it all together at the K-12 level. Also, we need to promote Mr. Chris Turner, who for the Esports Award. Chris, give your pitch for people to vote for you real quick.
Man,
yeah, 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, go vote. Like James always says, I'm the biggest hustler in esports. I feel like I deserve to be ambassador, and evidently other people do too. It feels good, man. esportsawards.com/vote. Chris Turner for Collegiate Ambassador of the Year.
All right. Look, Bradford was tight in his conversation. Chris, you got your 30 seconds in to get your plug in for yourself. This is like a watershed moment in the esports EDU chats. I'm just picking on you, Bradford. Sorry. All right. That's it, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being part of the conversation. We will be back next week, but always engage in the conversation with us online. Esports on Twitter. It's Esports EDU chat. Find us there, and we will find you all next week.